I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Welcome to the Creating Success Out of Failure podcast. I thank you for joining us. Our mission, our vision is to help salespeople and entrepreneurs get through the misinformation that's out there. We want to talk about everyone's trials and tribulations because you know what? We all know at the end of the day, success is not a linear straight line. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to get beaten down. But how do you get up? How do you overcome that? That's what we're going to be going over on these podcasts. So thank you for joining us and enjoy the podcast.
My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to throw down. It's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell
Welcome to today's show. I'm excited we have a guest, Andrew, from Awesome, Marvelous Incorporated. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the trials and tribulations that he's experienced in the different roles he's played, owning a business, doing copywriting. The copywriting to me is really cool because if you can sell with words, you definitely have a leg up on the competition because most people can't. So Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background on what you do and what you've done in the past, and then we'll go from there.
For sure, man. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. My name is Andrew S. Kaplan. One thing I neglected to tell you guys right now, I'm also host of Shattered Mode podcast, which right now is a central hub for my business. And my business is in a transition at the moment where I was doing marketing consulting and I was doing copywriting. And now I'm kind of taking things in a different level where stepping back away from the client work, which of course a lot of people that have that experience with it know is very time consuming and takes a lot of time and focus. And I'm shifting to just selling straight up products, whether it's books, whether it's information products, things of that nature. So a lot less hands-on, but leaving me a lot more time to create a lot more and really just kind of like following along with that path for myself.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about, why you switched from doing marketing and copywriting into selling information products.
Yeah, man. Well, I've always been into the information product type of thing just because if you can successfully do it, to be really candid, it's easy because you don't have to worry about overhead. You don't have to worry about, where you're going to stock everything. If you can create something that's actually useful, the internet does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, especially if you know copywriting and you can sell through words. Client work is really, it's lucrative if you do it the right way. So of course, it's going to be motivating from a money standpoint to try to get client work and do copywriting for people one-on-one and do marketing consulting. But, you only live once. So for whatever reason, it's kind of developed to the point where I enjoy it only so much, but it's time to step back. So it really just comes down to wanting to enjoy my life more, enjoy my time more. And that's why I'm shifting to this place where, the cliche of making money while you sleep and you just get those notifications of dollars coming in versus kind of being glued to your email, your inbox, and having to make sure that if someone has an issue, you answer them right away and you make sure that they're taken care of. Because for me, the way I've always done business is I'm never a flake. So when I do sign on or somebody hires me, they've got full access to me. So it really comes down to I can either drive myself nuts maintaining that standard or shift gears and have a little fun doing something else.
How long were you doing that for? Like, how long were you working one-on-one with clients before you decided to make that switch?
Well, I mean, off and on for 10 years. I had a heavy stint for, I guess, the past 2 years ago. I started going really, really heavy on it. And it's about like a half a year ago, like over the summer, when I decided, you know what, I've got a really cool book idea and a really good idea for products that will actually help people without me being there holding them by the hand. Let me take this step in this direction now. So for me, it's following my gut. It's following my intuition. And just fortunately for me, I'm kind of smart enough that I keep finances steady enough, and I'm not a very extravagant person, that I've made this shift like fully intentional about it, knowing that I'm not going to be careless or reckless, and that I can afford to kind of shave back on the client work and ramp things up on the product work without having to worry when my next paycheck's going to come.
Got it. What do you think of most marketers today? I think that term is a very overused word, especially on social media. I feel like a lot of people feel like they can, do the job. And then, like you said, you're not a flake. There's a lot of flakes out there.
Yeah.
What's your experience been, on that level?
Well, it's been bad. It's part of the reason, I'm sure, why I work so hard, because it's kind of like whenever you get screwed over on someone, you never want to be that guy that does it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I've had good experiences and bad experiences, and it really comes down to certain people are going to be really good about selling themselves. And oftentimes, unless you really vet them and unless you talk to honest customers that have dealings with them before, you never really know until you're in with them. And it becomes a thing where you have to know upfront the risks that you're making in terms of your money, in terms of your time, in terms of your energy. So if you can't vet somebody, you really are taking a risk. And I'm sure a lot of people listening right now have had their own bumps and bruises and the scars to prove it themselves.
Okay, so from an insider perspective, how would you go about vetting somebody?
Well, there's two ways. So the thing about it is, there's two levels. There's someone that's just going to charge a boatload of money, and they have a reputation. So if someone actually if you could find their work online and read it and review it and see how it converts and do your heavy research on that aspect, knowing that they're really expensive and knowing that they won't talk to anybody, that's a risk you want to take. If it's someone that hasn't really proven their worth, you kind of vet them by telling them listen, let's agree on a really small job for small money. Here's the back end. Are you willing to do this? And the truth is, not everyone is going to take you up on that. And again, they're either too busy or too good to do it, or they suck too much and they can't really live up to it anyway. But I personally would vet someone by making them prove their worth on a small project that not only gives me a demonstration of their skill level, but also gives me a demonstration of what it's like to interact with them. What's it like when I do email them with an issue? Are they going to get back to me? Are they going to flake out? Yep. And I actually tell you right now, I hired somebody. No matter how many times you get screwed over, you will always make rookie mistakes. I hired someone for $30 on Fiverr to do logo work for me, but it's only $30. So I'm like, you know what? I've seen their other work on Instagram. It seems like they know what they're doing. Let me kind of do this piece. And long story short, they really dropped the ball. They didn't really do what they promised that they were going to do. So it's $30 down the drain. And I ended up looking at what they did and going into Photoshop and actually making a better version than I ever would have gotten from them. But it was $30. I knew going in, if I lost 30, it was fine. But it was a thing where it's good that I had that first interaction, because that's the type of person that I would never have put in thousands of dollars up front, because it's very clear that they were unresponsive with email. They didn't follow instructions. They didn't do what they were say what they're going to do. And, the truth is, even in the beginning, when you vet someone, they might be on their best behavior pretty early on. So to whatever measure you can, and this is easier said than done, you want to kind of enter slowly into that relationship and build more and more and make sure that they keep keeping their promises and they keep consistent and they don't drop the ball and they don't pass you off to an assistant or an apprentice or something. So it really is the kind of thing where you're paying for convenience, but by that same token, I've been jaded in the sense that you're also paying that you have to babysit them in the beginning and make sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, also, you know, doing it on Fiverr, just for everyone listening or watching on YouTube, to the show, I would probably compare that to dating on Tinder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally would use 99 Designs or Upwork because there's a lot bigger sample size. Yeah, you're paying more, but you have a higher chance of getting quality than doing that. And I've been married, so I never got to experience Tinder, right? But I would assume that is comparable.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, trust me, I think you've got the better end of the stick there if you bypass Tinder. No, maybe it's good for some people. And I'll tell you, man, I'm aware of 99 Designs. In fact, I used it on the second cover of my book, It Doesn't Matter What You're Selling. So I know it's like to make that worthy investment. And of course, that's a great example because you are vetting people throughout the process of 99 Designs where people on their own, their own time and energy are submitting stuff. So you get a feel if you want to keep working with them. And like I said, like Fiverr, It can work, but for me, it definitely was a rookie mistake because I was willing to throw $30 at a problem and see if I could solve it easily because I'm so busy with everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer, and I really do like 99 Designs. You're going to pay a little bit more, but it's definitely good. And then Upwork, if you can find the right designers on Upwork, and you can find them for anything, you hold on to them. I have one person that constantly does, PowerPoints for me or trainings for me that, touches them up. And it makes all the difference in the world when I have to go speak or go, make another training for my internal team. So for me, finding those two things, especially as an entrepreneur running a business, has been tremendous. So why don't we talk a little bit? And I know I want to get into, some of the challenges you've had. But before we do that, why don't you give a few people, especially a few of the listeners, a few great tips on copywriting? Because I think that's so important.
So number one thing, whenever someone asks me to kind of review their copy or even like review their website, very recently I was reviewing people's website, the first thing that people see, the question that you always want to answer is what's in it for them, because that's all they care about anyway. It doesn't matter how clearly you describe what you actually do if you're not also, or even instead of, communicating what's in it for them. Another advice that I always like to give is, and this is kind of like a cliche at this point for anyone that follows copywriting, but kind of meet them where they're at in terms of their problem. And in many ways, you're even like you're selling them on the problem and not your solution, because it's, kind of sounds a little skeevy, and hopefully that you won't use this for evil and you'll use it for good. But it's the pain that people are in that's really motivating to them to make that purchase and try to solve the problem through you. Whether it's good or bad and whether it's good or evil, your ability to get in someone's head and describe their pain for them is going to make a lot more of an impact of whether they buy from you or buy from somebody else.
Absolutely. Have you read Story Brand Selling?
I have. That's Donald Miller, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I have.
Great book.
I remember, it's so funny, by the way, like I've read so many books. Sometimes I've read like some portions or complete ones. I got through Story Brand all the way through. So that one's solid. And I love that one. And I'm going back to my memory banks on this one, but what I remember getting the most out of that was really about having something that people attach to, where they kind of like, almost like a story, they connect like you and your product and who you are with a certain level of life experience, even if they didn't go through that themselves. That's what I kind of got out of that one the most.
Yeah, no, that's a great book on setting up websites, copy. I don't even know about copy. It really kind of transcends copy and goes into your marketing and how you run a company. Getting everybody to buy into, what our perspective role in our client's life is. And I think that's a pretty tremendous takeaway from that book. So and I only know that just because I'm finishing up, probably be on the last pages tonight. So that was a really good one. I like giving all of our watchers or listeners, something to grab hold of and take actionable steps. So why don't we talk about some of the challenges you've experienced running your own business? Maybe we'll start with the information products or any other business that you want to, go over.
Yeah. Well, so it's so funny. I have so many failures and so many lessons to learn. I will say a huge struggle that I had years ago that I finally figured out now. Don't ask me why it took me so long to figure out that you've got to like pay for advertising. You don't want to do it. I personally hate Facebook because I've never figured it out, so it wastes my money. But you do want to figure out some form of advertising to drive your eyeballs to what you're doing, because you can't count on people just being there for you, that they're actually looking for what you're doing. So for years, I struggled just trying to find audiences for certain info products that I was creating myself, because I really had no clue on how to find them. I had no clue, do I spend this much on a website? Do I do blog posts? So a lot of my challenges were kind of like just trying to like figure out the lay of the land. And what made it exponentially more difficult is, let's say that blog posts were the answer. Well, that's great and all, but I also didn't answer the question of, am I writing the right kind of blog post that's actually going to speak to the right person? So the struggles that I've had with business have been like layered, where if only you could figure out the right choice between A, B, and C, once you do that, you have to know how to massage the right choice after that. And then there's a layer past that and past that. So for me, I've kind of like built myself from the ground up, going through all those failures and incorporating the lessons into every new endeavor as I did it, which I don't know how well that answered your question, but it's kind of like popped out of my head as I said it.
Okay. Why don't you give like actionable takeaways? Like, how did you find the right audience? You know, where were they? What did you
Right. Well, so
what did you do to reach them?
I'll give you what I'm doing right now personally. So my latest book, which is a passion project, is called The Last Law of Attraction Book You'll Ever Need to Read. I promote that organically on social media, and I tell friends about it, and I keep people updated. I do all these things, and I post valuable content, and I think that makes a difference. But what I do most importantly, especially when I launched the book around Thanksgiving, is I advertise directly on Amazon, because it's a book on Amazon. So for me, it's like, listen, the book's on Amazon. What better, do I really want to put it on Facebook or Google that someone might click and maybe it works? Or do I want to put it in a place where I can pick keywords in other books and have people that are already looking for the topic, they're already looking to make a purchase, and all I really have to do then is make my title better and make the content of the preview better. And like, as long as I do a better job of all the books within that market, then the advertising is just the other piece of the recipe that takes care of everything else. So that's my strongest advice now for someone that has a book. Like, advertise on Amazon, sell it on Amazon. If you want to do like free book giveaways and stuff like that, that's good. I'm not the person to ask about that. So I'm sure there's a way of succeeding, but me, I prefer the convenience of just having it on Amazon. They handle the overhead. They give you your piece of the royalty. It makes it nice and easy, and it's a trustworthy platform. So people look at that book on Amazon, and if they don't know me, they don't have to ask the simple question of like, well, is this guy some dude like in a basement who's gonna take my money, not ship the book? It's like, no, Amazon's shipping the book. Amazon's printing everything. Amazon's taking the money. So I've attached myself to a trustworthy platform, and I'm advertising through that platform that relates directly to the product. That is my best advice to people, at least what's working for me right now. And also what's fortunately connecting me with the exact kind of reader and customer that I want to have.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like bolt-on credibility, if you will. You know what I mean? Because of Amazon. And that's pretty smart. I mean, if you think about it, Google's very expensive. Facebook, the ads are increasing in cost for sure. And it's a little bit harder to market if you don't have your ideal prospect or client. But on Amazon, if they're looking for similar books and they come across yours, you have a much better shot of, getting conversion. So that's pretty smart.
Yeah. And, I mean, I understand Facebook works in certain situations, but I just haven't figured it out yet. And me personally, I don't want the time and the stress and the money and the expense to try to figure it out, because they've been frustrating to work with to begin with. They banned, I'll tell you a funny story. I did an info product on dating apps, like how to succeed on a dating app. And Facebook's terms of service are, you're not allowed to sell a dating app. But I wasn't selling a dating app. I was selling an information product on how to use a dating app. But their algorithm saw the words dating app, and they banned my ads account. And I went through weeks and weeks. By the way, after being stupid and developing the whole project up front and then expecting that I was going to be able to depend on Facebook to sell through, after doing all that, they banned the ad account, and I was like left with no recourse because I was too... it was a rookie mistake. I had not thought out the strategy or the idea of like, if Facebook doesn't work, what's another way, a successful, efficient, cost-effective way for me to reach this consumer? But I was just I'd never done Facebook before at that point, and I put so much faith and stock in them, a reputable company, and it didn't work out. So another lesson. I'm sorry.
What dating app?
Well, any dating app. So
I'm pretty sure you can advertise through those. I mean, I would have just popped it in through there.
I did that too. I approached them and I reached out, and like, I never got an answer. It was very frustrating. It's kind of like the product was never meant to be. And I'll tell you, it's probably about 3 years. Like, if you bought it 3 or 4 years ago, you were going to clean up. Like, it was going to take care of you. Now people, like, the apps have matured a little more, and people have like kind of gotten a little more jaded, so it wouldn't work as well. I would have to revamp it. But I will say, I was so kind of disenchanted by the whole experience that I sell the product now if someone finds it, but like I'll charge them thousands of dollars. Like I'm so bitter over the whole thing. I don't expect to sell another one. Like I sold a few to a couple people in the beginning because the word got around about me, but I don't expect to sell another one. I don't really care. Like for me, it's just like, nah, that's another project. I learned a lot about how to construct webinars through that project. I learned a lot how to do Screenflow, which serves me for my podcast. So even these defeats or these setbacks, you learn skills and you go through things that you apply to your next project. So it's all good either way.
Absolutely. Everything's a learning experience, right?
For sure. For sure.
So go through the, you said something about screen position or
Screenflow. So the program that I use a Mac. So I use Screenflow to edit my video sales letters, my webinars, my info products, and my podcast, because it's easy. It's convenient. It's kind of like, I think Windows users will use Camtasia. This is like the Mac answer to Camtasia.
Screenflow. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Camtasia for my Mac.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Works just as well also. For me, for whatever reason, I remember I saw a demo of Screenflow, the swiper that edits everything. It just seemed easy.
Yep.
And, I like easy. Everyone likes easy, right? So they did their job of communicating to me that it would be easy, so I bought them.
Nice. What are some of the other challenges you've encountered either in this or copywriting?
Well, copywriting it's a challenge in that, like, even you could never stop learning. Like once you think that you've got copywriting figured out, you've kind of screwed yourself over, because you've always got to work on growing, and you never know that you might have landed like the perfect message for a perfect product.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that you know everything now, and then you try to apply that same technique to a different product or a different market, and it misses somehow. So like the thing about copywriting is, for unless you're like a John Carlton level, this is more like baseball, where if you're batting 300, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't realize, like there's a lot of hit and miss. Like even there's this book called the forgive me if I get this wrong. It's a 16-word sales letter or something like that. It's by this hotshot copywriter who's been big only for 3 years from Agora Financial. And he was talking like, a lot of his things were hit and miss. It's only before he discovered and kind of like got comfortable in his whole skin and figured out like a little groove and stuck with the market. He used to like bomb his sales letters and nothing would go right for him. And I think that the challenge about copywriting is, no matter how much you do it, there's always something you got to learn. And it's something that, you may learn something new that will apparently contradict a lesson that you thought you had figured out in the past. And the truth is they're both true and they're both false depending on the situation. So A lot of times it becomes could be a really frustrating guessing game. And if you're not in it to win it, you're going to get frustrated. It's kind of like professional wrestlers. If they don't love it, they're not going to stick around for the bumps and bruises because it's just too hard.
Yeah.
And that really applies to pretty much everything outside of copywriting as well.
It applies to business, but what I've found and what I keep seeing, especially with copy, it's kind of like fishing. You could have the right bait, the right time. If you're not fishing where the fish are or in the right spot, it doesn't matter, right? So when you're doing copy, if the copy isn't going to the right people, it could be the best copy in the world. It's not going to make a difference. There's so many different variables. In life, in anything, a lot of people give up or stop. So it's trial and error until you figure it out and get it right. And then you got to get it right, and you got to continue to put it in front of the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's why a lot of people fail with that. So, all right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's go into kind of like how you structure your day now, right? With what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're selling an information product, you're advertising on Amazon. Walk us through what your day looks like and how many information products do you make and how long does it take you to make them?
Right. So no day for me is exactly the same these days, just because I really am in that mode of building kind of like a new path. But for the most part, I'll stretch my time doing interviews on Shatter the Mold, giving interviews for cool guys like you, tweaking and playing with advertising for Amazon, like only slightly. Like you have to test gently, because if you switch 3 variables and it works, as you know, like you don't know which one worked. So I slowly but surely play with that. I create content that right now I'm putting on Facebook just to kind of get a feel for how people respond. And I'm also building out a YouTube channel that's going to be in support of the new book. So a lot for me right now, it's all about creating content, adjusting my advertising and just building more and more and seeing how that it unfolds. Because right now there's the book and there's a 90-day product that supports the book. And a couple of tripwire products just to help people along. But for the most part, like, I'm not building a lot of products right now. I'm just building content. I'm building, emails that I could send out to my list so that I can keep supporting them, to thank them for the purchase that they made to begin with. And really kind of like learning from the ground up in terms of like the Facebook piece. And just today I was shown something on TikTok. So I might take time out and experiment with it and just see what kind of,
And what was that?
response. TikTok?
Yeah. No, I know what TikTok is. What did someone show you?
They basically showed me how he got like 40,000 likes over the span of a week, and he showed me the video format that he used to do it. And it got the wheels turning in my brain like, okay, well, if I swap out that part for this part and that graphic for this graphic, and I put my spin on it, it would be a very interesting experiment to see if that kind of content, which is much more quickly consumable, of course, if that also reaches potential new readers, or if it completely bombs. But, what's it going to take? It's not going to be like a lot of hard effort to put a video together and just drop it. If it bombs, it bombs. It's not a big deal to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just trial and error. I mean, TikTok for me, I think it's the wild, wild west. I mean, anytime there's a new social media platform, all they want is a ton of people, ton of users and engagement at first. So it's very easy to get a big following, and then they tighten up a little bit.
Exactly.
I just can't get over some of the things on there. So I'm a little turned off by it, to be honest with you. But, why don't you share that format if you don't mind? Because that's pretty cool. I just wouldn't, like, I do small business lending. I don't see myself on that platform right now.
Yeah. It's not very easy to describe the format. You kind of just have to see it, but it's more, I'll put it this way. And this is actually really important, obviously, for copywriting. Anyway, that kind of, the lessons always go hand in hand. It's like a storytelling model where like you caption, like, first I was this, then I did this, and now I'm this.
Yeah.
And obviously if you've got, either an inspirational spin, or you've got a result, or you've got like an actionable type of step you can give people, something that either inspires them or motivates them or gets them like excited. That to me is the thing I'm gonna experiment with. And, for me, just as many failure stories as I've got a bunch of success stories also. So it's very easy to format that into something like this and see if people kind of take to it.
Got it. All right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Evan, what questions do you have?
How
Quiet back there, as always.
Yeah, hey, you guys were firing back and forth, and it was just interesting to me to listen to it. Because I don't have as much experience in the marketing, in the more niche marketing spaces as Andrew does, and as you do as well, Jonathan. So I couldn't think of any questions while you guys were talking. But honestly, what struck me from your story and your transition is, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about exactly when and what your thought process was surrounding your transition from client-based work to just selling information products. Because I'm sure there are listeners out there who may have been diving into something like client work or something that is more time-consuming, and maybe they've had this idea kind of nagging at them in the back of their mind that, well, I don't think this is what I really want to be doing. I think I'd like to have more time, more free time, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that transition and what kind of advice you would have for listeners who may begin going through a similar transition. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, full disclosure, people don't know, like, conversations you and I have had, Evan, obviously we understand the importance of mindset. And, whatever you got to do to get a hook on yourself to actually have the right positive thought so you can make the right positive action is a huge thing. So I want to preface this by saying, for me, I already had plenty of experience, for better or worse, with information products. So for me, I felt a lot of ease and confidence in making that transition because it isn't like this mystery to me. It isn't like this whole brand new thing that I know nothing about. So to answer your question as best as I can, my thought process and my mindset is, well, this is easy. Like, I know what I'm doing here. I know exactly what I'm getting into, which is for me why I know not only am I going to do better at it because I keep learning things, but I know what I'm in for. I know what's going to be bad about it. I know it's going to be challenging. So my thought process was, I'm at a place where this client stuff and this being at someone's beck and call, it just isn't for me anymore. And by the way, that's not a bad, if that's what you're doing, that's not a bad thing. Like, everyone's got their own tendency, their own preference, their own style. For me, it's just a thing where I am a people pleaser by nature, and I really do bend over backwards for someone that hires me personally. And I could feel myself getting burnt out. I could feel myself spreading out too thin. And it's like, it wasn't that I didn't have energy, because like, I wrote It Doesn't Matter What You're Selling in 5.5 weeks, 160 pages. I wrote The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read in 9.5 weeks. That was 210 pages. So it's no shortage of like energy just to do work. It's just that kind of work was kind of like grinding me down. And I knew enough to know that I don't want this to get to a place where I'm dropping the ball for a client. So I chose an efficient, well thought out plan of transitioning where I can kind of like wean myself off, not take on new clients, fulfill and satisfy my commitments, and then move forward. And I'm still available to maybe like 1 or 2 new clients, depending on the situation, especially if it's like a quick project. I'm just like out of that mode right now of saying like, this is my bread and butter. This is what I'm doing 24/7, 365.
Right, because then now, you can still get some of that income from working with clients, but they're a lot less, so you're not, all your time isn't spent with them. And I know that the fewer clients you have, the easier it is to keep up fulfillment and to keep the engagement with those clients, the best that you can be. But it's a lot easier to drop the ball, like you said, when you have more clients.
You know what? I'm going to call bullshit on that, Evan.
Oh, yeah. No, do it, please.
For sure. For sure, dude. Like, and here's why. Because, yeah, there's a good amount of truth to, hey, if you only have a few clients, you can really serve them at a high level. But I think being a business owner, when you really have a mission, you want to impact as many people as you can, right? And being a business owner, like for me, it's all about scale that right now, right? I mean, I'm rolling out my, another program that goes hand in hand with capital gains. I'm going to get a bunch more people in. I'm going to expand probably tenfold Sprout. So and I know the reason I want to do that, I want to help business owners succeed and help them get their finances to grow. So the only way I can do that is to expand my team. How do I do that? By launching another program. If you're a good business owner, you want to bring on more people that can do that, where you can kind of fire yourself. You follow me? Mm-hmm. So being like a 1-man or 2-man operation that can serve 10 clients at a high level, that's not exciting to me. That's not sexy to me. What's sexy to me is replicating myself or people just like me that can service, 10,000 clients. You know what I mean? And when you get to really high levels, that's what it's about.
So you raise a really good point, Jonathan, because you said like that version is not sexy to you. That's a part of my answer that I did not give. For me, it's not my style and my personality to want to build a team and want to build a big company like that. I'm more comfortable kind of like being, I mean, I have assistants, but they're on and off. I'm comfortable as a 1-man show. So that's kind of like resonates with me. So I don't disagree anything with what you said there. It's just like, for me personally, for my answer, it's not my style to want to have a larger company with new employees and scaling in that way.
Oh, I get it, man. It comes down to, everyone's core values are different. Everyone's beliefs are different. If you want to impact a few people at a high level, make a comfortable living and have a lot more, freedom. And I get that, for me, it's how do I make a massive impact and disrupt an industry and grow from there. And that's always what I've been about. That's what my partner's about. And there's no right or wrong. It's just what you believe and core values and really what's driving you. You know what I mean?
Different goals.
Yeah. And it's trust me, I don't think there's not one that is, I think both have their own sets of challenges, but at the end of the day, or should I say, at the end of the day, it's, what you want to do. And I know, like I've projected my year out already, I know what what an uphill climb I have. There's no doubt in my mind. Think about it like this: it's almost 7 o'clock at night, and I'm talking to you two. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I get it. I definitely get it.
Yeah, man. You gave such an interesting word, which is perfect. You talked about impact, and I think it's great to hear. Like there's 3 different people on this call right now that are going about it differently for impact. Like for me, right now, like the new book is the bestseller among all the other books like in that market. So like my impact for me, it's kind of like cool. The right people are finding this way to this book, and I don't want to name drop. I don't want to badmouth specific books, but there are certain books that are like high on the market that I'm getting readers emailing me saying, dude, your book is so much better. And you actually cleared up a lot of confusion that I was having before. So thank you. So for me, it's so gratifying to like get this positive feedback and know that those like 9.5 weeks that I just like slaved away, being up to like 3 or 4 a.m., trying to make the perfect wording that I know would land in the perfect way for the right person. It's so gratifying. And I'm sure you could probably tell so many stories about like the impact that you get when clients are thanking you for helping them grow and helping them make a difference and helping them pay rent or just change their lifestyle or whatever. So I can only imagine how awesome that must be. And I'm sure you got some pretty grand plans for the 2020 with that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, for sure. For sure. I just feel like it's never ending. You know what I mean? So, in a way, there's a little, I don't want to say jealousy, but I can certainly see why, if you write a book, you can still impact a lot of people to get them to do what they need to do or to, to hit their goals. Where for us, we're kind of, it's, I don't want to say transactional because we don't treat it like that at all. We treat our clients like our family. It's just we're collecting statements, analyzing them, giving them a review, then selling an underwriter on why they should give them money or why they should finance this piece of equipment or why they should get an SBA loan or a line of credit. So
you're serving them in the way that they need to be served.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing you could ever do in whatever business you're doing.
That's it.
I love it, man.
Totally it. So why don't we do this? Why don't you give Andrew, I'm going to let you do the actionable takeaways, right? Based on things that you've learned in the past. And, I do think, we did talk a lot of things here and we could just go over and recap them. Why don't you give us some detail and impactful things that can be taken away from your book?
For sure. Well, I want to start something that isn't in the book, and just because it's so important, the way we had the recent part of this interview with the discussion of how we all have our different way of doing things. It's like I don't want anyone out there to slave away like I have to find my life's purpose, otherwise I'm incomplete. But I would suggest find whatever mode or style of workflow that you want, because that's the thing that you're going to want to attach yourself to when you have tough times. So make sure, again, like there's a Jonathan way, there's an Evan way, there's an Andrew way, there's a million ways. Make sure you understand which way before taking the action. The action I would say, and like wouldn't even get it out of this book. So I'll actually give action for it doesn't matter what you're selling, because I think that's more appropriate for people listening right now. One of the top tips I can ever say is learn how to do storytelling, because it doesn't matter what business that you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're the salesperson or not. Storytelling is going to be a really important part where you have to make your point. Whether people are asking you, would someone ask you like how much something is, you can tell them and maybe they can handle it or not, but you also probably want to have a story of how that money relates. You want a price anchor. You want to talk about how if you're selling something for $1,000, you want to talk about how something gave somebody $10,000 of return on their investment.
Absolutely.
Any kind of thing. So like the number one actionable thing I would say for this kind of show and for what I think is this kind of listener is do storytelling, but also do positioning. Whoever you're going to be whatever, don't be fake, but put forth the side of you that's going to appeal the most to your prospect, but also enable you to do the best job for them. So for example, it's not automatically a good thing to be like, oh, yes, sir, how may I help you, sir? And be like overly polite, because that might attract a client who's going to abuse you and prevent you from doing a good job for them. So for depending on who you are, you might actually have to be a little bit like a wise ass. and someone that like, it's kind of like, it's clear that you're going to do your job, but it's also clear that they can't boss you around or bully you around because they're hiring you maybe for your expertise or something. So make sure that you understand your positioning for how it's going to serve your client and your business the most, because those go hand in hand. Understand storytelling, because that's going to get you across the finish line in any conversation whenever there's a conflict or a misunderstanding. And off the top of my head it sounds so cliche, but make sure that you have passion for what you're doing, because you are going to run low on steam. You're going to feel a grind. You're going to be burnt out. So you got a guy like me who switched gears. I have the luxury of switching gears, because for me, I switch gears into a different passion. And if I don't like that, I can always switch gears again. But I'm sticking with my passion, because that's how I write books in only weeks at a time. And that's how I actually serve my customers, whether it's in person or whether it's over the course of a book where they never even meet me.
Got it. I love it. I definitely dig it, man. And I appreciate you coming on. All right. Guys, if you got anything out of this show, and I'm sure you did, please leave a 5-star review, share it, subscribe. We really appreciate you. And that's a wrap. I appreciate it, Andrew.
Thanks so much for having me. I really liked being on this one.
That wraps up this episode. Remember, we are not here to sell anything. We're only here to help people, help entrepreneurs, help salespeople level up, get their business and finances and health to the next level. So please, we're never going to sell you anything on the show. If you got any value at all, just one little thing, all I ask is a 5-star review and that you share this episode on social media. Thank you, and continue leveling up.
Gotta go get it right now. Holla at me with me. It's time.
I think the stars above, I know that we're gonna make it.
It'll take over God, we gon' make it. Show the world that it's shining our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Second verse, I'm telling you I'm ready to go, letting you know, cause I'm never alone. The ones that I roll with are incredibly known for getting down to the nitty gritty. If you really with me, let's go. Moves made, dues paid, most talk but don't do a thing. We certified, observers I come through and give a true display. We champions, understand me standing under a victory canopy. Canopy the enemy was handing keys, ready to drive at top speed, let's get it out. Wake up, victory's mine, on top, still on the grind. Gotta go get it right now, holla at me if you with me, it's time.
I think the stars above, I know that we're gonna make it.
It'll take over God, we gon' make it. Show the world that it's shining our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it.
I think the stars above, I know that we're gonna make it. I know the ground below my feet's gonna lift me up. I thank the stars above, I know that we're gonna make it. I know the ground below my feet's gonna lift me up.
It'll take over God, we gon' make it. Show the world that it's shining our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. It'll take over God, we gon' make it. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it.